I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. Bum bum ba bum 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 bum.
Chapter 6, The Journey from Platform 9 3/4.
Welcome to another episode. I'm Molly.
And I'm Alex.
And
this
is
is PotterWatch.
So we will be discussing Chapter 6, Journey from Platform 9 3/4. And the password from last week was...
Dumbledore.
So last time the password was whoever was on the chocolate frog that Harry got. And as Alex said, it was Dumbledore.
Dumbledore.
So thanks for tuning in again.
So, what are your overall thoughts?
I really like this chapter. I love that we get to meet so many characters and in such like a nice way. It's very, like, it makes sense, like, why you're meeting them. It's not like, oh, here's a character, here's a character.
Yeah, and you get to see, you get to see characters that come back later and are, like, some of my favorite characters in a side view. Like, you see Neville with his toad in sort of, like, a passing way. And even though Lee isn't, like, a very big character in the overall series, he does come back a lot, and you get to see him.
And you hear about the whole... Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I was going to say, you hear the whole Weasley family. Even we don't meet, like, Bill or Charlie, but we still know what they do. Like, it's so great that we get all this information on so many characters. Even, like, Dumbledore gets a mention, even though we have heard of him before.
And I don't know if we want to skip this far, but the little glimpse we get of the Weasley family is so spot on. Like, their that whole interaction to introduce them with the twins, like, making fun of Percy, and Molly telling Ginny to, like, be quiet, and just, like, that whole scene is just really well done.
Yeah, I think so too. I do have a couple notes before we get to the Weasleys. Our last bit of the Dursleys till the very end of the book. I just think it's funny that Harry neglects to tell them that he needs to be in King's Cross until the day before. Like, why did he think that was a good idea?
I don't know. It also, I'm surprised they even take him.
Yeah, even though they were going to London, like, if I were them and I was mad like they were, I'd be like,
find your own way, dude. Also, Dudley still has that fucking pigtail.
I know.
So I would, like, be really mad at Harry now.
Yeah. And if he hadn't gone with the Dursleys, do you think he would have just gotten, like, a taxi or something?
I think I like to assume that the night bus or someone would have come and picked him up.
Yeah. Who knows? Well, anyway, they took him. Oh, but I think it's so cute how he, like, wakes up really early and, like, packs his trunk and everything. And it just made me think, like, I used to be... Well, I still am a huge nerd, but I used to not be able to sleep the night before school.
Same.
I'd have my outfit picked out, and, like, everything was perfectly organized in my backpack. And I would irritate my sister, who I used to share a room with. She moved out of the room we shared, actually, because I
kept getting up early.
Yeah, or I would, like, not be able to fall asleep, so I'd, like, try and keep her awake with me, and she's like, ugh, I'm trying to go to sleep, like, we have to be up early for school.
Yeah, I was like that too, anytime, and I still am, anytime there's, like, a big thing the next day, like, when my dad got me tickets to see Hamilton for graduation, and even the night before going to see it, like, I couldn't sleep, like, I was so restless and up all night, and so I thought it was such a real thing for him to be like, I'm antsy because my whole life is starting tomorrow, basically. My happy life.
Yeah. Also, when they get to when they get to King's Cross, I think it was really smart of Harry to, like, not give himself away to the guard, like, and Harry doesn't really know, like, the whole Muggle secrecy thing yet, like, he's just learning, so that was pretty smart of him.
Hagrid does say a little bit about the Muggle secrecy, but yeah, you're right, he's not like, I'm looking for the train to Hogwarts, that magic school. I also love this quick little, that he names Hedwig after someone he finds in History of Magic, which is really...
The only time he probably read that textbook.
Exactly. But I think that's really sweet, and I forget that sometimes. Oh, also about Platform 9 3/4. I have added this to another Dumbledore neglect. I've added another point because they don't tell Muggleborns anything, and I think they give, to be fair, Muggleborns more information than they gave Harry. Yeah. But why would you not tell him that you have to go through the wall?
I don't know if that's Dumbledore's fault. I feel like Hagrid probably should have mentioned that.
But either way, they know how Harry is being treated. They should have, like you said, sent somebody to get him.
Yeah.
Like, they were stopping the letters. It just seems so, like, he should not have had to figure this out. There should have been clear instructions.
Yeah, I think you're right that there's some oversight there on somebody's part. But I do wonder, like, for Muggleborns, because I think someone actually comes to, like, the house and explains it to the family. Mm-hmm. Like Dumbledore did for Tom Riddle, but because Harry's not really a Muggleborn, I guess they didn't do what they would normally do. Mm-hmm. But I do think that's really interesting. Like, how do they go to the platform for the first time, and, like, can Hermione's parents, like, get on the platform? Which I think they do.
They can. I think anybody who knows of wizardry can get through the barrier. Or if I feel like Muggles aren't trying to. Maybe anybody who dares go through it can.
Right. I think you're right. One thing that's always bothered me is that Molly Weasley goes, "Now what's the platform number?" Like, obviously she knows what it is, and I've argued now for her that she was just doing it so, like, Ginny could answer. Like, my mom would sometimes be like, "Now, what time is it?" Like, she obviously knows, but, like, she knows that I want to tell the right answer. So I'm like, maybe that's what it was. But otherwise, it makes me really, I just get really annoyed about it because I think they've only been going to Hogwarts how many years? How many kids do they have? They went to Hogwarts. Like, she knows the platform number.
She knows it. Also, Harry's like, "Where is Hogwarts? I didn't know." Like, why don't they tell these key information?
Well, that actually is supposed to be a secret.
Yeah, but I just feel like my parents, I guess, well, the Dursleys don't care, but if I were a Muggle-born, my parents wouldn't let me go to this school. They didn't know where the location was. Yeah. Like, I'm going to a completely different part of the UK.
I always wish that we got a proper, like, introduction to Hermione's parents, but we only see glimpses of them in, like, Arthur Weasley's like, "Oh, there are the Grangers, like, let me go talk to them," but we never actually get to talk, like, hear them or anything like that, and I think that would have been a cool little thing just to see their point of it, but I guess that kind of takes you out of the world too much.
Yeah, it also would, if we learn too much about them, we'd have to have a better excuse for why Hermione never spends any time with them, which I feel like J.K. Rowling just doesn't want us to ask. Yeah. Like, she's spending all of her free time with the Weasleys, and she never sees her parents anyway, so.
I know, it's really sad, and, like, she's their only daughter.
Yeah.
Or only child.
Like, that's horrifying. You go to boarding school, and then when you're away from boarding school, you spend months at a time with the Weasleys.
Should we get into the Weasleys? We've both pulled a quote from the twins. Do you want me?
Let's do it.
"Fred, you next," the plump woman said. "I'm not Fred, I'm George," said the boy. "Honestly, woman, you call yourself our mother. Can't you tell I'm George?" "Sorry, George, dear. Only joking. I am Fred," said the boy, and off he went. "Can't stay long, mother," he said. "I'm up front. The prefects have got 2 compartments to themselves." "Oh, are you a prefect, Percy?" said one of the twins with an air of great surprise. "You should have said something. We had no idea." "Hang on, I think I remember him saying something about it," said the other twin. "Once or twice, a minute, all summer." "Oh, shut up," said Percy the prefect.
I love this bit. I think it's so funny, and I love that J.K. Rowling is clearly on the side of the twins here, like, or I guess it's Harry, because you're in Harry's point of view, like, said Percy the prefect. It's so cheeky, and rereading always makes me sad, because from the very beginning, the twins are always talked about together, like, the twins, or one twin said, the other twin said, and there's not really, for the rest of the books, like, there's not really separation in character. Like, they don't have distinctive personalities away from each other. And so that I always think about in the 7th one where obviously Fred dies, and I'm just like,
I know.
I can't think about it.
I try not to think about it too much while I'm reading because I just want to enjoy their banter and stuff and not think about how sad it's going to be, because I love all of their interactions, and I like that they're the first ones that Harry meets, actually, like, before Ron, and I think that's important because Harry is friends with the twins, like, separate from Ron.
Yeah.
Like, he gets along with them better than, like, Ron does, which, you know, makes sense. Cause,
yeah,
like,
brothers. And they give Harry the Marauders map, and...
Yeah, well, that sucks for Ron.
Yeah. Isn't Ron mad about it? He's like...
Yeah, he's like, I'm their brother.
Yeah. But,
And I think it's a perfect introduction to them, having them, like, teasing their mother and like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I just think all of it's a good glimpse of them and the Weasleys as a whole.
The one introduction from the Weasleys I don't like is Ginny's, because she's supposed to be, like, 10, and they make her seem like a 6-year-old or something that's, like, whining, and I don't think that Ginny would be like that. She's supposed to be, like, tough, you know, she's been with all these brothers and, like, really close to Fred and George, so I think it's weird that she's, like, crying and stuff when she's supposed to be 10, and I don't know what was going on there, but I don't like it.
I argue that she's never lived in a house without siblings, and this will be her first year that it's just her in her home, like, by herself, and everyone gets to go. So I feel like that's why she's sad. I don't know about the crying, laughing combination. Like, they do make her seem younger than she is, but I can see why she would be upset about this year in particular.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point, that she'll be by herself, just with Molly, who they've always shown her having, like, kind of a stressful relationship with her mom, because she wants to be treated like one of the boys, but because she's the only girl, Molly, like... Yeah, thinks of her differently.
And I also think, and I was going to bring this up later in my notes because, but I guess we can talk about it now. They don't have friends, like, until they go to Hogwarts. Like, when Ron and Harry are meeting, or becoming friends on this, in this chapter, which is great, I was thinking about it, and I was like, Ron's never really had a friend either that isn't a part of his family. Yeah. So I'm also seeing Ginny being like, all of my friends, like, I don't have anyone to talk to for this full almost year of my life.
That is such a weird concept. I think that's just something that J.K. Rowling didn't really spend time, like, fleshing out, which makes sense.
But it also makes sense because they don't go to school. Like, when I was a kid, I guess I made my friends from, like, I went to school, I did after-school theater, and church. Those were, like, the only 3 places I would find school. But they're not doing any, like, after-school programs, and they don't go to school.
I had friends, like, in the neighborhood that I didn't go to school with.
That's true.
They actually went to a different school. Yeah. Although... Imagine if, like, she had, because Ginny and Luna are really good friends.
I know, they're besties, but I don't know. Honestly, that's also a mishap on J.K. Rowling's part, because I don't believe that they never met the Lovegoods, or they just didn't hang out with them when they lived a hill away, because it's like they have never met Luna before, Ron.
But the Weasleys obviously do know them because they got an invite to the wedding. So the adult Weasleys must know the Lovegoods.
Which wedding?
Bill and Fleur.
But I think that's because Luna is such good friends with Ginny. Like, I think they meet them after Luna and Ginny become friends, but when we meet Luna in the 5th one, it doesn't seem like Ron has ever seen her before.
No, I don't think Ron has, but I do think maybe the parents know the other. Because, again, it's like a small community, and especially since Luna's mother passed away, like, they probably know who the Lovegoods are, but they also know that they're really quirky, even too quirky for the Weasleys, you know? Do you have any notes before we actually get on the train?
Just that when we went to Wizarding World this last time and first time going into the train and seeing the Hogwarts Express, I got very emotional. And I also got very emotional, like, reading it this time through, because it's so magical, the whole idea, like, everybody, the kids and parents buzzing around, and that's what it feels like when you go to it in Universal, because obviously there are parents with their kids.
Yeah.
And it just...
And we, like... So, the way the train works is you go from one part of the park to another, and you're actually going from Diagon Alley to Hogsmeade, so, like, in... Pretty similar. And you actually sit in the compartments and they look just like in the movie. So it was so cool to like really feel that same sense, and like even like the curtains and everything just looks the same, and it was just really well done.
And they have a little surprise for you in the compartment.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna spoil, but
and you're actually right, like the train is actually like on tracks, like going, so it's not just like you're sitting there and it's like a simulation. It's like you're actually on the train. So I just think it's so cool, and I love that they incorporated that into the wizarding world and like made it essentially a ride.
Another little note I have a big LOL next to when Fred and George meet Harry, and they're like, "Are you Harry Potter?" And Harry's like, "Oh, him."
Oh yeah,
oh, yeah.
That line's so funny. Oh, him. Yeah, I mean, if someone said that to me, I'm like, so you're not. Like, you're lying.
So you're not Harry Potter? Are you or are you not Harry Potter?
Yeah.
And I just love that he's so confused by his own fame. Like, it always trips him up. He's like, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I've lived in a cupboard my whole life.
I just have a note here, what a rat, in reference to Scabbers.
I also have that note. We'll talk about him later.
So my next note is mainly me just being annoyed about Cursed Child again, because we get our introduction to the Trolley Witch. And I just hate how in Cursed Child they make her like this demon character who doesn't know her name, and like, I don't know, it's like weird.
I didn't feel the same way. Like, I think it's the Trolley Witch is like a funny part of Cursed Child. Like, it wasn't one of my main issues with it, surprisingly enough. I also think it would be really interesting to see on stage. I think there were a lot of parts in that scene that I disagreed with. Like, I disagree with her like chasing the Weasley twins. I mean, not the Weasley twins, the Marauders, like off the train. Like, they couldn't figure out how to escape the train, even though Albus and Scorpius figure it out like in 2 seconds, and I'm sitting here like, you mean the people who created the Marauders map, that amazing magical object, who learned to be animaguses at 13 or whatever they learned, they couldn't figure out how to go down a hole to be the escape the train. It just seemed
I just thought the whole thing was like corny and cheesy, and I just don't like that in the Harry Potter world. I mean, yes, like the whole magic thing, I guess it could be kind of corny, but I don't like it.
I think it goes back to what you were saying in an earlier podcast about how what's so great about the Harry Potter universe is, even though it deals with magic, it's based in reality. Yeah. And the Trolley Witch doesn't seem very real.
I think Cursed Child in general, now that we're talking about that, I know we're going to talk about Cursed Child in its own episode, but I think it is because it's not as based in reality, and that might be because it's in a play format. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that more. Also, just another Harry Sweets count. I'll take the lot.
He doesn't say that
in the movie.
Yeah, but I was like, I was waiting for that line, and I guess I had never realized that was a line that he doesn't say in the book. But I like it, so good job, screenwriters.
But this is just another sweet Harry moment that we get.
Go on, have a pasty, said Harry, who had never had anything to share before, or indeed anyone to share it with. It was a nice feeling, sitting there with Ron, eating their way through all Harry's pasties, cakes, and candies. The sandwiches lay forgotten.
Yeah, just so sweet. And like Alex was just saying, like, Ron also hasn't really had any friends, and Ron obviously doesn't have very much money, so like they just have this like moment where Harry's like, I've never had a friend before, but I have all this money, and Ron's like, I've never had so many sweets before, or like a friend to like help me out. Like, it's so sweet, and it's so sweet,
and I love that they find each other.
Yeah, and it's like the perfect thing for 11-year-olds to bond over, like sweets
and candy, and they become close so quickly, and I think that is so true to being that age. Like, now that's not really, like, as adults, that's not really how we like do friendship, but I feel like when I was 11, that's like I was friends with, or not even 11, when I went to college, I feel like that those first couple friends that you meet, like, you're in this like new world, this new situation, you're nervous about it, and you bond instantly with whoever you can hold on to.
And I just love that they're so fascinated with each other. Like, Harry just wants to learn everything about, like, magic and, like, wizard families. And Ron's just as interested with, like, how Harry grew up. And obviously Harry's famous, but that's not even really what they talk about that much.
And it just, again, you said another nice Harry moment. And Harry's so kind in these first couple pages with Ron. Like, when Ron is upset about the whole money thing and about not and having to wear old clothes, Harry's like, oh, I had to do the same thing, and it makes Ron feel instantly better. He's like, oh, if Harry Potter had a life like this, then like my life maybe isn't so bad. And later with the whole, we'll talk about this later with Scabbers, right? And Harry's like, I really do think his whiskers seem a little bit yellower. And
I was just thinking that too.
I'm like, Harry, why are you the sweetest?
Another thing that I love that J.K. Rowling did, laying that groundwork, when he reads Dumbledore's chocolate frog card out loud.
Albus Dumbledore, currently headmaster of Hogwarts. Considered by many the greatest wizard of modern times, Dumbledore is particularly famous for his defeat of the dark wizard Grindelwald in 1945, for the discovery of the 12 uses of dragon's blood, and his work on alchemy with his partner Nicholas Flamel. Professor Dumbledore enjoys chamber music and 10-pin bowling.
Yeah, so you get, like, the quirkiness of Dumbledore with, like, 10-pin bowling, and also, obviously, the Nicholas Flamel thing that comes back in this book, but then you also get the Grindelwald stuff, which doesn't pay off till the 7th book. Like, I just love that she included, it's really short, but she included so much that is really relevant to Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm. And I also think, we say this every episode, but it goes back to that, the illusion of who Dumbledore is, like that pedestal that everybody's keeping him on, like all of his orders of Merlin and such things. Before we go too far, we should talk about Ron and his jealousy.
Oh yeah.
There's this great, like, long rant that Ron sort of goes on with Harry where he's like, I'm never gonna be as good as, like, Bill, who was head boy, and Charlie, who was Quidditch captain, and Percy's a prefect, and Fred and George are funny, and Ginny's the only girl, and then there's me,
who I have to be as good as them, but, like, no one will care because they've already done it. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I was like, Ron, this issue with Ron comes back so much throughout the books, and I love that it's our first glimpse of him. Like, this is what we first learn, and we have to sort of remember it later in Goblet of Fire when he's upset about Harry being chosen. You know, we have to remember where all of that
and he kind
hate
of
is coming from.
The worst friends, because Hermione's, like, brilliant and Harry's famous, so he again is, like, the bottom guy. And I mean, not like he picked bad friends, but, like, he picked the wrong friends for what he wanted. He wanted to be, like, at the top. But I think that when he does have the upper hand, like, with Neville and stuff, he's really kind. And we see that a lot in this book, where he, like, really helps Neville out and things like that, and, like, tries to get Neville to, like, stand up for himself. And I think in that way that shows Ron as, like, a really kind person, which I think gets overlooked.
Yeah, I've always seen Ron as sort of, like, the heart of the group, which is weird because he, like,
is so sassy.
He's so sassy, but in the way that he, like, is the glue that keeps that group together. Like, I don't want to say comedic relief because I'm not meaning in the way that he's comedic in Cursed Child, but when things are really intense, Ron does have a way of easing that tension in a way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if Harry and Hermione, if it was just them, things would be all business all the time. And Harry does say that when Ron and Hermione are fighting in, like, a later book. He's like, when I'm with Hermione, all we're doing is studying, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot
That's
less
why I don't
laughs.
ship Harmony. That's why Ron and Hermione work, because she makes him smarter and he makes her loosen up.
Yeah. Also, Ron, they talk about him having, like, an old wand. That's probably why he's, like, not great at magic, because it's not his own wand, which seems, like, weird. Like, that's, like, a thing that you can, like, use someone else's wand.
Neville uses his dad's wand,
Yeah.
too, and I'm like, that's why Neville's also so bad.
Like, it's not because he's mispronouncing Leviosa. It's because he's using not his wand. Like,
the
he didn't
wand
choose
chooses
him.
the wizard.
Also, like, that spell he uses to do on Scabbers is, like, obviously not a real spell. And, like, Ron should know that because he's grown up with wizards. He should know that, like, spells are, like, one,
Turn
2 words.
Stupid fat rat yellow.
Yeah.
No. Another thing I like is when Ron is talking about the chocolate frog cards, he's talking about how he has Morgana and how he's looking for Merlin or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Agrippa.
what I find is interesting is these are like mythological people.
Mm-hmm.
And so
There's like Cersei.
Cersei,
Game of
like
Thrones.
in this world, these mythological people are real. Which I always think is really interesting because she hints at Greek mythology all the time. Sirius, or even the creatures like centaurs, the hippogriffs. They're three-headed dog. Like there are tons of there's Greek mythology everywhere. But with these, she's like Morgana, Merlin. These people. I know.
I think the Merlin thing is funny because he's like what we think of as like wizard, and like they say Merlin's pants,
Merlin's beard.
Well, Hermione says
Merlin's pants.
So I think that's funny that they include him because that's like from our world, and like I think she does a nice job like fusing it together. But I do think it's kind of interesting what you're saying. Should we talk about Hermione?
Sure.
Are you sure that's a real spell? Said the girl. Well, it's not very good, is it? I've tried a few simple spells just for practice, and it's all worked for me. Nobody in my family's magic at all. It was ever such a surprise when I got my letter, but I was ever so pleased, of course. I mean, it's the very best school of witchcraft there is, I've heard. I've learned all our course books by heart, of course. I just hope it will be enough. I'm Hermione Granger, by the way. Who are you?
When I was a child, and still to this day, my note is I was obsessed with Hermione. I'm still obsessed with Hermione. When I was a kid, I was a tomboy, and I liked to sit in my room and read Harry Potter books. And even though I'm not as studious as Hermione, it was nice to get a character that I could connect with on that level.
Yeah, I really connected with Hermione because I was, like I said, a nerd. Like, I really liked school, and I probably would have, like, read all of my books ahead of time. Like, I really liked Hermione. Still do. I think she's just such a great character, and she has the most beautiful arc, I think, throughout the whole story, where she kind of loosens up in some ways, but, like, remains, like, her same, like, true self, and just gets better. Like, there are very few times where I'm like, Hermione's, like, in the wrong. Like, there are a couple times where I think that she does things that I dislike, but for the most part, I think that she's like the compass for Harry a lot of times.
Definitely. And I think the best part about Hermione, like even in this moment, like you were saying, she is 100% herself, and she knows who that person is from this young of an age, and she's never really wavered from that. So even when she does do things that I'm like, oh, Hermione, get over it. Yeah. It's things that she's like, no, this is who I am, and I'm gonna stay to it.
And I think we see both Harry and Ron struggle growing up. Yeah. And you see them, like, flounder with who they are and their relationships with each other and with other people, where she's, like, more constant. I don't think it's uncharacteristic, or I don't think it's, like, hard to believe that someone could be like that. But I just think it's a beautiful way to kind of juxtapose the characters.
Yeah. And I just love her coming in and being like, and we were so happy that I got into Hogwarts and stuff, because I just wonder what she was thinking, because she is so strong in character. It doesn't seem like she was ever, like, afraid of her powers. She was like, no, I was just extraordinary, and that's what it was, and then I got my letter to Hogwarts, and that explained everything.
Yeah, I want to know what her, like, early manifestations of magic looked like.
Yeah.
Like, what did she do? And things like that.
Did she, like, read extra quickly? Like, I want to know.
Or maybe more like Lily, where it's, like, with nature and, like, things like that. I don't know. That's just really interesting to think about Hermione in that way.
Yeah, and I love that her parents were accepting of it, because it's like...
Yeah.
I mean, I guess she had to be. We couldn't have, like, too many, like, abused children going on in here, but...
I like that she did believe it, though, because we find later, like, Hermione's not very open-minded, but she did believe this, like, I guess right away that she is magical, and that's probably because she did do things when she was younger that were unexplainable, but,
I feel like maybe she was like, I didn't just make that move. It must have, like, I feel like she did a lot of second guessing.
So we get some sassy Harry back, when he meets Draco again. Are you there in your notes, or did you have some other stuff?
I love the Quidditch rant. Like, Ron just is talking about Quidditch in this rant form, but we don't know anything about Quidditch, so he's saying things like, and then there's, like, the ball, and then the hoop, and I'm sitting here like, oh, I see everything. I understand, because I know what Quidditch is, but if I didn't know what Quidditch is, this is a weird introduction to Quidditch, because he doesn't really tell you anything about it.
Yeah, but we get the explanation of Quidditch, like, a couple of times in the first book, because, like, Hagrid also kind of does, like, a short explanation, and then we hear this from Ron.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And then Wood finally explains it, and, like, Harry finally gets it, but I do think it's nice how she kind of does these, like, first ones, so we know what Quidditch is before.
Yeah, so we've seen it a couple times. It's like we were saying before, like, she does a good job of, like, when to give us a lot of information. Now let's talk about my little shit.
Yeah, so Sassy Harry is back when Draco comes in.
Is it true, he said. They're saying all down the train that Harry Potter's in this compartment. So, it's you, is it? Yes, said Harry. He was looking at the other boys. Both of them were thick-set and looked extremely mean. Standing on either side of the pale boy, they looked like bodyguards. Oh, this is Crabbe and this is Goyle, said the pale boy carelessly, noticing where Harry was looking. And my name's Malfoy, Draco Malfoy. Ron gave a slight cough, which might have been hiding a snigger. Draco Malfoy looked at him. Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. My father told me all the Weasleys have red hair, freckles, and more children than they can afford. He turned back to Harry. You'll soon find out some wizarding families are much better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there. He held out his hand to shake Harry's, but Harry didn't take it. I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself, thanks, he said coolly. Draco Malfoy didn't go red, but a pink tinge appeared in his pale cheeks. I'd be careful if I were you, Potter, he said slowly. Unless you're a bit politer, you'll go the same way as your parents. They didn't know what was good for them either. You hang around with riffraff like the Weasleys and that Hagrid, and it'll rub off on you.
Oh my God, Draco, you asshat! What are you doing?
He's so mean.
He's so mean and bitter and awful, but what I did notice listening to it this time is he sounds like like he's quoting his father. Like when we meet the Weasleys in book 2 and see like Lucius versus Arthur, it's just like he sounds like his dad when he talks.
Yeah.
And he sounds like Snape a little bit too, which is interesting. I just think he's a walking puppet of his father.
Yeah, and he, like, sets up the whole thing, about the Weasleys right there. He's, like, red hair, freckles, like, that whole thing to Ron. Shows that animosity between the Malfoys and the Weasleys. Both, like, pure-blood families, but that they're very different. And, like, Harry obviously realizes that right away. Because earlier in this chapter, Harry says in his head about the Weasleys, that must have been one of the pure-blood families that Boy was talking about, but then he realizes seeing them together, like, they're nothing alike.
Which sets up the way that this world functions really well. I think J.K. Rowling does a good job of, like, showing us both the Weasleys and the Malfoys in quick succession like this.
And Hermione bookends this whole interaction. She's there right before this happens and right after, and I think that is probably on purpose because she's, like, Muggle-born, and even though they don't talk about it, it's, like, that's what it comes down to, is how they feel about people that are allegedly inferior to them.
Right, especially when Hermione is like, I can do magic. You did that spell wrong. Like, you have Ron, who is from a pureblood family, doing magic incorrectly, and Hermione being like, my spells all work. You know, it's a good way to do that. Also, someone explain to me this surname thing. Is this because I'm not from, like, England? Why did he start? Malfoy's like, I'm Malfoy. Draco Malfoy.
I think that is a British thing. And
Like,
they say surname, whereas we say last name.
And, like, the Potter, like, Potter, Granger, Weasley. It's like, why? I mean, I get.
And, like, professors use that, too. They say them by their last name, usually.
Yeah, and I was just like, what 11-year-old introduces themselves like that? I also thought it could be, though, because they're a wizarding family, so he can, like, he puts his last name first because that's the thing he's most proud of. Like, I'm coming from this old wizarding family.
I was just going to say that I think that names mean a lot to Draco, so he puts a lot of emphasis on who you are and what your name is. And he wants people to know him as a Malfoy. So, like, that's really important to him. Yeah, I agree with you.
Ugh. He's the worst.
The
though.
only good thing that Scabbers has ever done. I'm going to call him Scabbers because I don't want to think of him as Pettigrew.
Well, this makes me mad because I'm sitting here and I'm reading this and I'm like, yay, good for you, Scabbers, but you're also, like, the living worst, so I don't know what to do with this information. Can you have not done something right? I just want to hate you out and out. That's my feelings about it.
Yeah, that's all we're going to say on him. Until the third book, that is. One thing that I don't understand the purpose of at all is this whole thing with Ron having dirt on his nose. Like, she brings it up more than once, like, and I guess it's, like, kind of comparing, like, Molly and Hermione and, like, kind of maybe setting up their whole relationship from the get-go.
Like,
mothers and...
Yeah, mothers and...
Like,
people,
you marry your mother.
It's weird. Stop getting all edible.
But I just don't get the whole dirt thing. Like, why is that important to the story that we need to have it twice? Like, I don't get it. Is it just, like, comparing Hermione and Molly? Do you think?
I don't think it's comparing Molly and Hermione, but I think it sets up Hermione as sort of mothering Harry and Ron. That dynamic, I think, a little bit. Like, oh my god, please get that dirt off your nose.
And, like get dressed. I expect we'll be arriving soon.
Right, exactly. It's just like Hermione works as their at Hogwarts mother. Your hands are very cold.
That was my last note, actually. Well, except for just, I love the whole, them on the boats, like, seeing the castle for the first time, because for all of them, they're all on the same page. It doesn't matter what family they're coming from, they're all starting. And we'll talk about it next chapter, just the excitement and eagerness of all of them, but, like, scared, and, it's just so cool, like, imagining those little 11-year-olds, like, they know what's in store, but they have, like, no idea at the
because
same time.
Never, you're right, even the pureblood family, like, they've never seen Hogwarts before, these kids. So, I love it. I just love this whole chapter. This is my last note, is that it's filled with such friendship and...
Which is a huge theme for the whole book.
In the whole book, and it's beautiful. I say it hurts. It's so beautiful it hurts. Like, it makes me really nostalgic. And I recently, my friend, she had never watched any of the movies, she never read any of the books, and we recently did a movie night where we did 4 movies on Saturday and 4 movies on Sunday, and she turned to me at the end of the 7th one, and she was, 7 part 1, that is, and she was like, this is one of my favorites, and it happens to be one of my favorite movies, too. And I was like, why? And she said, because since the first 2 movies, we haven't really just seen Harry, Ron, and Hermione get to hang out together for a long period of time. And she was like, I just really loved seeing that dynamic come back. And I just think it's interesting that someone who, like, isn't even really in this fandom or even read the books, just from this one large shove into it, she was like, yeah, this friendship is, like, a really strong theme that carries through.
Yeah, you've said it.
Sorry.
No, I just mean I have nothing to add. Like, you just said it so lovely. Okay, so next we will do our quiz.
Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy, Hoggy, Hogwarts, teach us something, please.
Quiz.
Okay, so we're doing quotes again, where we have to fill in the quote for the other person's, and we each chose 2 for the other person to figure out. Okay, this one's from early in the chapter. So, at the moment, a group of people passed just behind him, and he caught a few words of what they were saying. This is what he overhears Molly Weasley saying, just to put it in context. It's like a line. Do you know what part I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just don't know the line.
If you get it,
verbatim.
like, kind of right, like, that's fine.
See, now I'm thinking of the movie, and it's different. But
I think it's the same line from the movie.
Filled with muggles, as usual.
That's it.
That's it?
Well, packed with muggles,
Yes,
of course.
yes.
Yeah, but 10 points to Gryffindor, I think. Or 10 points to Alex, at least. I think that's close enough. That was kind of hard, because it wasn't just, like, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm. Mine is similar, so I'll give, if you get close, I'll... Okay, so Molly says... I forbid you to ask him, Fred. No, don't you dare. As though he needs reminding of that on his first day of school. What does Fred respond?
Oh, that's really hard. Okay, I'm trying to think. Okay, so...
I'll give you a hint that it's funny.
Yeah, I figured. I honestly have no idea. I can't hear it. Like, I usually can hear, like, the audiobook, and I don't know what it is. You have to tell me.
All right, keep your hair on.
Oh, man, I'm so mad. This is the first one I've, like, not known at all.
Yeah, that one was a hard one.
No, that was good. No, I needed to be stumped, I think. I was high on my horse. All right, so I was going to do can you do the spell, but I think that's too easy.
Which spell? Sunshine Daisy's Bottom Mellow.
Yeah, so I'm going to do this one instead, which I think is a little bit more interesting. Okay, so there are 3 blanks.
Ooh.
And it's Ron saying, you never get anything new either with 5 brothers. I've got blank's old robes, blank's old wand, and blank's old rat.
Okay, Percy's old rat.
Yep.
Charlie's old robes. Ooh, is that wrong? Bill's old robes? I can't remember.
I'll tell you at the end. So you just make your guess.
Okay. I think it's Charlie's old robes and Bill's old wand and Percy's old rat. I think I only got the last one right.
Yeah, it's Bill's old robes and Charlie's old wand and Percy's old rat.
So close!
So I'm going to say you had to get them all.
No,
Okay.
That's fair. I didn't get that one right.
All right, so it's still 10-0.
Okay. Okay. Hermione says, "You haven't been fighting, have you? You'll be in trouble before school even starts." And then blank, said Ron, scowling at her. Blank. Ron says both things.
I think the second part is when he says, well, are you gonna leave? Like, we need to change.
Yeah,
that
really good. That is the second part.
And the first part is like, we haven't been fighting. Scabbers has.
10 points to Ravenclaw.
All right, woo, redeemed myself.
Mm-hmm. It's Scabbers has been fighting, not us, says Ron, scowling at her. Would you mind leaving while we change?
So we each got 10.
My chapter title is The Right Sort.
Oh, that's really good. I had a hard time coming up with one. I wanted to do something about, like, them being, like, friends.
Yeah. I think we were, like, on the same page with that. That was, like, the big takeaway from this chapter.
Like, something about, like, the trio meeting for the first time. Maybe just trio. like kind of simple, not funny, but
the golden trio begins.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't come up with a very good one.
No, I like it. Trio.
Very ominous. So chapter champion. I don't know.
My chapter champion should be changed to chapter champions because it's Fred and George.
Oh, love. I was gonna do chapter champions as well. I was just thinking the whole Weasley family. I just love the whole introduction to them, and that we get so much and like such little dialogue, really. And I just love we get a whole picture of who they all are.
Yeah.
So yeah, chapter champions, the Weasley family.
Yes.
The reading rat, I just want to give it to like the actual rat because it's our first introduction, but since like the rat was like fine in this.
Thanks for using the word fine instead of like saving the day.
Yeah, no. I guess just give it to like Draco again because he's such a shit.
I gave it to Draco too because I said in my notes Draco again for being an abominable shit.
Yeah.
What he says to Harry is like fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
Excuse me. Nobody asked for that.
But also like honorary mention like the rat.
But yeah, that's how I feel
also
about
almost
Wormtail.
gave the champion to Hermione because I love this introduction to her. But I think that I'll definitely end up giving it to her later. But I think we get more Hermione in the upcoming chapters.
Yeah, definitely.
Which that reminds me that next week we're going to combine chapters 7 and 8. So Sorting Hat and the Potions Master. Because they're both...
Wonder who's my reading rat's gonna be for Potions Master.
Or is it going to be your champion?
Maybe it'll be both.
We'll see. So for the password for next episode, we will do who is the first person to be sorted.
Good one. Difficult.
Yeah. So I hope you guys can tune in and get the password.
Yeah.
So we have to do a little, something we keep forgetting to do is give points to the chapter. So for this chapter, I think it's such a great, strong chapter. So many introductions, like I've said. Introduces like one of the main themes of the book too. So I'm giving this chapter 100 points to the Weasley family, my champions.
Yeah, I'm gonna give 50 points to Fred and George for being amazing. I'm going to give 100 points to Ron and Harry's friendship.
Just
and
throw it out
points to Hermione for being lovely.
For moral fiber.
moral fiber.
Yeah, so yeah, we do have to do a couple of plugs. We are, as of recording this, we're up and running on iTunes and SoundCloud and all of that fun stuff. You can find us. The best way to go is to our Facebook page, which is just Facebook/PotterWatch Podcast. And there you can find all of our social media links. We're on Twitter. We're on Tumblr.
Yeah, and...
Oh, and if you have thoughts, like if you want to weigh in about, like, if you disagreed with us or something, we do have an email, and it's, okay, so our email is podcastpotterwatch@gmail.com.
And our Tumblr's the same thing. It's podcastpotterwatch.tumblr.com. You can also obviously message us through any of our social media. If you're liking the podcast, or if you're not, please comment on our iTunes account so more people will listen.
Yeah, we're trying to do something fun. We really would love iTunes reviews. So we want you to be honest, so you don't have to give us a 5-star review. But if you do give us a 5-star review and write something, and you put your house, whatever house that you are a part of, then we are awarding 10 points to that house. And we're going to have a house competition to see who has the most points. And so as of right now, it's 10 points to Gryffindor, 20 points to Hufflepuff, 10 points to Ravenclaw, and no Slytherins yet.
So get going, Slytherins.
So make sure you review. And we'd just love to hear some feedback on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. And you might have noticed we have a separate house tournament going on between Molly and I. We give points for when we get our little quiz questions and such correct. So look out for that too.
So we'll do a who's the biggest fan for every book. We have to calculate where we are right now, but we'll let you guys know next episode who's in the lead. Stay tuned for all this fun stuff. Yeah, we update our Facebook a lot and our Twitter, so we'll try and do quizzes or surveys, that kind of stuff online, and try and keep that exciting. And we'll try and keep the tallies probably up there as well.
And it's the holiday season, so
give us the gift of reviews.
Give us the gift of reviews.
Okay, so stay tuned for next episode.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Molly.
And this is PotterWatch. Mischief managed. Bum bum ba bum 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 bum.